Yes, welcome again. My name is MJB. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about the interview process, particularly looking at the main questions that are asked in interviews. We need to acquaint ourselves with these main questions because it becomes so crucial, especially when you attend an interview. You need to acquaint yourself with such questions so that it will be better for you to respond as expected. In most cases, there is this type of question that is asked in an interview, and it's asked in different ways or versions. You can be asked about to give information regarding yourself or tell us about yourself. Other panels can ask you about maybe, for example, you say you are Geoffrey, they ask you, who is this Geoffrey? Can you tell us about Geoffrey briefly? So you need to understand that this is the same question that is asked in different ways at different places. So acquainting yourself means that you must incorporate the proper use of communication skills, and these skills that you have to employ, they are the principles of effective communication. You need to understand them, you need to have them at your fingertips so that whenever you respond to this particular question, it becomes so simple and so easy for you to respond. Meanwhile, I'll take you through the process of responding to this particular question. Tell us about yourself in an interview. So this particular question, the response must have three parts. And the three parts, just like in any other writing or any other question that you respond to, here you need to understand that there must be an introduction, there must be the body, as well as the conclusion. So, what is in the introduction of this question? When you are asked to talk about yourself in an interview, first of all, you must begin by appreciating the panel. You appreciate the panel for inviting you to that interview, because not everybody has been invited to that interview, but it's a privilege for you to be invited. So you first begin by appreciating, mainly for the appreciation. Here you have to be specific. What are you appreciating the panel for? You appreciate the panel for inviting you to the interview. Then secondly, you must quote your title. That is, if you're a professor, if you're a doctor, Mr., Mrs., you must quote your title and your name. Then in the introduction again, you have to talk about your qualifications. How are you qualified? For example, to this particular job that you are being interviewed for. What are your qualifications from university level, from college and all that? You must quote about your qualifications at the introduction level of this particular question. So after all that, then you move to the body. In the body, you have to take time because you will talk about your experience at different levels. So this experience has to go in line with the skills that this panel is looking for. You're being interviewed at this work or at this job, and the panel must be looking for a certain skill from you or which you have. So in the experience, you talk about the skills that you have, the achievements that you've had before in line with this skill that they are looking for. So you also have to talk about your achievements, of course, the challenges that you may have undergone from the previous workstations, and how you overcame them successfully. You do not talk about your failure as such, but here you have to talk about the challenges. There must be challenges at every work, and the way in which you overcome the challenges is what matters. It's not giving up that matters, but the way you deal with such challenges is what matters. So this particular part of the interview, or this particular question, is so crucial that if you fail in this particular question, the chances of you failing in the entire interview process are very high. So you need to be so keen when it comes to this particular question, because it is one and mostly asked at the beginning of the interview before other questions are brought out. So you need to respond confidently and consistently. You do not give answers anyhow. You need to be giving your answers in a logical manner so that the panel will be able to accept you for the next questions, or to be ready for the next questions which they will be able to ask. So the moment you present yourself very well from this particular question, it means that even the coming questions, it becomes easy for you to perform them well. So again, after the body, because in the body you take much of your time explaining several things here and there, so it means that you will conclude again by appreciating the panel for their time with you. You appreciate them for giving you the opportunity, for listening to you, for taking time with you. You just appreciate them just like that. Briefly, in this part you have to be brief and concise to avoid time wastage, so that you can give a way to the next questions that they are supposed to ask you. So I've talked about this particular question, but you have to understand there is something so crucial that when you sit for an interview before they ask you this question, normally they have to look at what we call time management. These are some things that most interviewees fail because at the moment you're invited for an interview, there's a place where you record your time, that is arrival time, and then after that you will be called according to the time you arrived. The first one to arrive most probably will be the first one to be interviewed. So if you come late, chances of you failing in the entire interview process are very high. If you may be smart in other areas, but if you do not manage time very well, it means that the chances of you failing are so high. So the interviewers also look at your grooming. Your grooming matters a lot, especially when you present yourself for interview. They look at your grooming. How are you dressed? Are you smart? Are you to the task? Are you up to the task? And all that. So another thing that they will look at is your facial expressions, especially during the questions session. They will be looking at your facial expressions. Are you ready for this job? There's a way in which you can behave, there's a way in which you can express yourself in terms of your face that will tell you are not ready for that task that you are being interviewed for. So you need to be keen in this particular area. Your tone also matters a lot. Your tone, the way you speak, your tone will give a message to the panel, whether you will cooperate or not. So you have to look at such simple things for you to pass your interview or perform as expected in an interview. So there are other areas in our communication skills that can enable a person to perform well in an interview. So if you employ them in your speaking, in your communication, the way you respond, it means that any other interview that you may attend will be a walkover. That is the term I can use. It will be a walkover because the way you will be able to talk and the way you'll be able to deliver your message will be so effective. So what do you need? You need the principles of effective communication as I've quoted earlier. What are these principles of effective communication? They are sometimes called the C's of communication or C's of good communication because all of them begin with C, letter C. Like we have correctness, we have clarity, consistency, coherence, correctness. When we talk about correctness, it means that whatever you speak, whatever word you use, whatever sentence you use, in terms of spelling, in terms of grammar, pronunciation, language, the type of language you use, it has to be correct. You must avoid vulgar language. You must ensure that your appearance, the appearance of your, if it's a written interview, the appearance and layout should go hand in hand with the language rules. So you have to be accurate in this particular manner, that your format has to be the required one. So you have to be correct. You have to be correct whenever you are speaking. And what about clarity? There is clarity. Clarity means that you use the simple words, you use the short sentences which can be understood, use proper punctuation where possible, and the right pauses like full stops, commas, and all that. You must use them appropriately. You cannot just use a pause where it is not expected. You cannot use a full stop where it is not expected. You have to ensure that you use all these punctuations where they are expected in the right way. So most interviewees can fail because they lack the skills of all the principles of effective communication. If you lack them at your fingertips, it means that the chances of you failing in an interview are very high. So there is what we call consistency. You have to be consistent in the message that you are giving. You should not go out of the topic. Whatever you are talking about, stick to it up to the end. Do not bring in something different. Just like talking about, for example, in the question we have talked about, the main question in an interview, you are asked to talk about yourself, you talk about your brothers, you talk about your number what in your family, you talk about your challenges in the family. Do not bring some things which are unnecessary in the interview. Just be straight to the point. You have to be consistent in the message you are giving. So there is what we call coherence. Coherence means that you give your ideas in a logical sequence. Your ideas have to go in a logical sequence. You cannot talk you cannot conclude, then you come to the introduction, then you go to the body. You have to go logically. You give your message in that order that is expected, in the agreed order, that is from the beginning to the end. For example, when you talk about your education, you start with the education from primary school, you go to high school, you talk about your education in tertiary, that is higher education. So you cannot mix up yourself by failing to follow the logic that is required. there is what we call concreteness. Concreteness from the word concrete. So what is this? You have to give a definite and concrete details when you're asked. You should not give your own things. You should not give your own information. You go by giving the most concrete details that are required. You have to avoid some phrases which are unnecessary. For example, talking of phrases like in due course, here you are not specific. Talking about at your earliest convenience. Some of these phrases are not good because they are like ambiguous. The person listening to your message when you use these particular phrases may not understand exactly what you mean. Instead of talking of in due course, instead of using at your earliest convenience, you can say, for example, in 2 weeks' time, I'll be able to be there. You can talk of within 3 weeks. Here you are specific, and the listener will be able to understand what you mean. It is good for us to be specific. It's good for us to be concrete whenever you are giving a message, so that at least it will be better for the listeners to get your message well. There is what we call conciseness, being concise and brief. This conciseness could mean being brief. So whenever you are asked a question in an interview, it is good for you to consider this, that you have to be concise, you have to be precise, go straight to the point. You stop beating around the bush and go straight to the point. Answer the question that you are asked at the correct time. Do not hesitate to respond immediately, because if you hesitate, it means that you are thinking of other things that you can cook and respond, which is wrong. So you have to use a few words. You keep to the point and you make every word that you are using count. Doesn't mean that you use small words, but whichever word you are using, make them count. Make them count, so that at least the message will be clear to the listeners or to the panel in an interview. If the message is clear to them, they will be able to get you. They will be able to understand what you mean. And there is courtesy. Courtesy in an interview or any communication is so crucial. It is paramount. You have to be courteous. You must employ the use of words that show courtesy. Words like excuse me, words like thank you, sorry, where appropriate. If you see that the person you are speaking to has achieved something, you can use the word congratulations. If you see the person you want to talk to is crying, you must show some sympathy by using words like sorry, the words that go hand in hand with the situation of the person you are addressing. You cannot use the word congratulations to a person who has failed. You have to use the right words and that show courtesy at the right time. Where there is need to use the word sorry, use it. Where there is need to use the word excuse me, you use it appropriately. You do not misuse these courteous words. You ensure that you use them where they are required, where they are needed. And it will be good for the communication to be effective. And if it is effective, even in an interview, it means that becoming successful is a priority. After all this, there must be what we call completeness in communication. Completeness means that the message you are giving has to be full, a full message that even if there must be a response that you may require, it has to come from the receiver because the message is complete. But whenever the message is incomplete, it means that even giving the response or getting the response from the receiver becomes a challenge. So let's ensure that we give what we call complete message by employing the right words and the sentences that will bring completion in the message that we are giving. Let us not give half information that even the receiver keep on asking, what do you mean? Let us avoid ambiguity in the message that we are passing. We ensure that we use the right sentences so that our messages can be passed as expected. Um, Thank you for your time. For now, I will stop there. But remember to subscribe to my channel and follow me for more educative lessons concerning English and literature, as well as all these that we have learned today. Thank you, and may God bless.